Okay, we're live. We are live, and we're just waiting for people to show up at this point. So, um, is there? It's weird. If you can see over my shoulder, it looks like a UFO.
Oh, it
Hanging.
does. It looks like that one you sent me.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Good
a cool
evening,
UFO.
everybody.
Oh,
As you
okay,
can
Battle of
tell,
the UFOs.
I'm Jill Snyder, and this is Tobe Johnson. And I've got a lot of explaining to do if I'm Jill.
With the best lighting
Actually,
ever.
we're waiting for a few people to join here. And then I'm going to tell a story, and then Jill's going to take over.
Oh, hi guys. I can't. How do I?
Oh,
How do
okay.
There's Chuck Checka.
There's Chuck. Tonight is definitely a somber night, and
It is
we
a
are
weird
going
day.
to honor our friend tonight. That we're still in shock about. Well, we're trying to moderate here live. No views. Hey, there's the chat. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Renee, Tim, and Steve. We're just waiting for a couple more people to join us. And hey, Amber's mom. And I'm trying to figure out how to. Well, we'll figure it out.
Whatever.
Here you go.
Meh.
How's everybody doing tonight? We are on the road. This is obviously not our usual setup. Now Tobe has a UFO on the wall. Renee, thank you. Thank you for that. We really appreciate it. Like I just said, we're on the road, and $10 goes a long way, believe me. So thank you very much for that. So I just want to tell a quick story, and then I'm going to jump off and give the better host the floor. So good evening, you guys. Thanks for joining us late. We really appreciate it. Like we said, we've been traveling and obviously kind of dealing with today's shocking news that we're still kind of shocked about. But a real quick story. I just ran up to the gas station that's next to this hotel, next to this motel, to buy some water for tonight. And this woman was standing behind the counter that it was ringing me up, and she was laughing about something. I said, "What are you laughing about?" And she goes, "Oh, there's this cat video, and this cat's kind of mimicking this frog. There was a frog that was hopping, and so the cat started kind of like doing this hopping thing." And I said, "Oh, that's adorable." I said, "I've got two cats that I really miss. I love my cats." And she's like, "Me too. I've got five cats." And we all know that Henry loved cats. And when we filmed the first interview with Henry for A Flash of Beauty, there was this black cat that would come and like sit on Henry's lap and crawl all over him, and it was so amazing that I used it as the photo, to bring people into that interview. And we asked Henry, we were like, he had just moved his property. He said, "Well, who's the cat? What's the cat's name?" Henry's like, "I have no idea. I've never seen him before." And this cat loved Henry. It was a black cat.
Yeah.
And this woman, I said to her, I said, "Oh, I've got to show you a couple pictures of my cats." So I pulled up my phone. I pulled up a picture of Cosmo and Kino. They're our cats. And she pulled out her phone. And she pulled up her phone and showed me a picture of her cat. And her cat was named Henry.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. True story.
What?
True story. Yeah. And it was funny because it was a cat with white fur, and it kind of had like this kind of like tabby mix. And I swear, he was a little pudgy, and I swear to you, he kind of looked like Henry. But you guys, there is an infinite number of names in this universe.
Right.
And if you want to crunch the numbers, be my guest. But that's a sign. And we feel like Henry's been sending us some signs all along that he knows the truth. And I just wanted to tell that story. So
wow.
I'm going to get off the floor and let you guys get on with the show. Thank you so much.
That's the first time I'd heard that story.
Okay.
Go moderate.
Are you? Okay. Jill's moving in.
Yeah.
So, let me get situated here.
Now, Jill, you'd
I will
heard
be
that
chasing
story.
trolls.
That's the first time I heard the Henry cat story.
It just happened.
happened.
It just happened. We ran over to the gas station to get water.
Yeah.
No coincidences. I mean, ugh. I think I just pulled cat hair out of my mouth too. So.
I mean, we can't go into all the synchronicities that have happened here because, you know, it's just still a work in progress. But it feels like since this road trip, Henry has kind of been playing a chessboard piece that was moved before his passing. Is that the way you're feeling?
Definitely. And just if we can back up to yesterday, and we talked about this. So yesterday, as Brett and I were like, just it was chaos at our house. For those of you who know or don't know, Brett and I are not good campers. We like being in the outdoors, but we would be like, we need to depend on stronger campers, if that makes sense. And so we were trying to like get ready for this whole trip and stuff, and like it has had this nagging like all day. I was like, I need to check in with Henry. Henry, we met up with him a few months ago and sat down for lunch. He's like, I'm coming out to you guys, we gotta talk. And we had a great catch up and stuff. And I was like, I just need to follow up with him. It was just killing me. And I was like, I figured I'll do it on the road. And it was like our whole day started off weird today. Like there was a weird traffic detour that totally threw us off, because I figured once we hit I-5, I'd just be on my phone working. And yeah, then so what happened was we actually got a text from Jai Tanzer, who is a drummer in Portland and is friends with one of Henry's bandmates from back in the day. Henry, who many of you know, prolific drummer, amazing. And he's like, did you guys hear? And then he sent us the information of who gave him the info. But there was definitely, it felt like, yeah, some wheels were in motion about, I'm speechless. It's weird processing now just because we've been on the go so much. But
Right.
But we also know Henry was the type of person who I'll always stuck out. Before we interviewed him for Flash of Beauty Bigfoot Revealed, you gave me his number. You're like, you need to talk to this guy. And I have this thing, like when I do the preliminary interview or phone call, I have to pay. I'm a pacer. So I was up at the
Right.
park walking around with a little notebook with my, AirPods in and making notes. And when he started just telling me stuff, I just had to sit down and I was just writing down everything. I'm like, this is insane. But one of the things he said, I'm going to totally mangle the quote, but he's like, when we die, you're either going faster or slower. It's like energy, and we just change
Right.
speeds. And I think about that, and I'm like, well, Henry's just, shifted gears, and now he can work at a much higher rate of speed.
It's
I
true.
totally went off the rails. I did not answer your question.
I mean,
but
part of what we wanted to do tonight for the folks that knew Henry, knew his work, maybe didn't know, maybe you met him here on the YouTube channel, but in my case, gosh, I mean, it really started with hearing about the Sierra Sounds and Gimmon like everybody else, but next in line, kind of pulling me into this world that said that the issue went much deeper, was Henry Franzoni on Talk Shoe Radio circa 2005, I think, time frame. I think I had a modem, like an actual modem hookup, and it was America Online days, and there was no iTunes. There was just Talk Shoe Radio, and this voice came on that kind of commanded attention, and it took its time to marinate this story here. And Jill and I kind of talked about how Henry was he was caught inside of a genius's mind, but he had to kind of interact with us normies. And so in my case, I always felt bad, like, trying to garner his attention for explanation over these tremendously odd things that he would say, including like Bigfoot laughed at me in the Tillamook forest. It blew up my starter engine. There's this huge government contract given to me, and Peter Byrne, which this is the first synchronicity. Let's talk about this. It's Peter Byrne's, 98th birthday today, correct?
99th.
99.
Well, okay, so Todd Neese corrected us. He said 98, but 99. Peter Byrne would have been close to 100 today.
It's his birthday.
It's his birthday, and exactly. And Henry had a friendship and a working friendship with Peter Byrne through the Glickman Report. If anybody hasn't looked up the Glickman Report, Glickman, type it in, Glickman Report, type in Peter Byrne, Byrne, type in Henry Franzoni, you'll pull up this huge government paper about Sasquatch on the Mount Hood Wilderness. I don't know if it was the eastern, western slope, but regardless, largely ignored by new Bigfooters. There's a wealth of knowledge to new Bigfooters that they haven't got a hold of yet, and it's just waiting for them to discover online. Henry was the first one to bring in the intranet dialogue between blogging reports. It was Henry that made the connection between Bigfoot reports and this thing called the internet, which I think was the intranet at one time. It was kind of his babies. I don't think that's up for debate anymore. The BFRO kind of got the idea, I think, from Henry Franzoni, from the way the story's told. People can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless, he was an innovator, and through those innovations comes a personality type that's kind of larger than life. And if you knew Henry, then you know what I'm talking about. And listen, he will be missed by a lot of people that were really serious about this subject matter, even the ones that thought he was full of it. The fact is, he committed his life to not only this, but to helping out the First Nations people, during a financial windfall for Native Americans that didn't exist before Henry came in and kind of vouched for them. And
he was a champion. He was a champion for the Pacific Northwest tribes, definitely.
Yeah. So we all kind of just touched the surface to who this man really was. He kind of only gave you what he was allowed to give you. And Brett, Jill, you guys got the interview of the century. Like when Henry turns to the camera and says, "I've been waiting 40 effing years to say this," I got chills. I mean, at that time, Henry and I were on the outs, but Henry was kind of always on the outs with people. And me and Aaron are in our bedroom, like laughing hysterical, like that is the most perfect way to end this video ever. It gave everybody chills. I just thought it was a brilliant way to pay respects to the legacy of this man's work. So, Henry, I know you're at work right now in a different way, and what
his work's just beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a way, like we said, it's like Henry has kind of been freed up from the physical form to do what he wanted to do, but couldn't do physically. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I mean, there is a way, if you want to, Jill, that we can ask people if they want to come on here. All you have to do is send them. There's a way to copy and paste in the messages there to the link, and then you can just invite them in, and then we can move on to the next person. Do you want to try that?
Yeah. And just for people who are joining in late, if you did not hear the unfortunate news, we learned today that Henry Franzoni has transitioned from this place, the 3D planet Earth, to his next assignment on the other side, beyond the veil, to his next mission. And
Jackie Barnes said that he got a promotion.
He got a promotion, damn straight.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. We don't know the detail. I mean, I've had a lot of people messaging me asking details, and we don't know. And that may not be something we ever know, but yeah, his presence is missed, but I have a feeling Henry's, like I said, Henry's story is just beginning, and I think this isn't the end of Henry. As a matter of fact, you know, the interviews we did, and gosh, the real gems were the things Henry said off camera. He had a wicked sense of humor, and I believe that sense of humor will continue because energy never dies. It just changes form, goes faster or slower. So I think things are going to get interesting, but I think Henry's work is just beginning, because I think now it's almost like, I don't want to say he got out of his own way, but now it's like,
Right.
here we are with this body of work, and who knows what else will start coming out, you know, that he knew.
Right.
And now it's kind of our job to, I feel like we need to make sense of it. But that being said, yes, Tobe, if there's anyone who wants to come in and like share about Henry, I don't know, let me know and I'll send you a link to Messenger or email.
Well, there's a way to invite them here. You can copy and paste in our thing, and you can bring them on camera right here underneath this program.
Yeah.
Someone wrote here, Shaman on a Soapbox. Tobe, tell the story of how we played Bolero in the woods for the Sasquatch on August 10th in honor of Henry. I sent him the video of us doing that on August 11th, and he wrote back about how much he loved it. So getting back to you there, Aaron. One of the things that I had heard first off is that Henry Franzoni, as a drummer, was promoting ways to elicit Bigfoot activity through drumming. This is how we had contact. I actually have an audio clip queued up at the Al Moon Lab with Henry Franzoni there talking about how this works. I'll see if I can do it here after the story. But in short, on August 10th, we were up near Forks, Washington on a camp out. And we had all brought the drums out to the tree line. We had incidental stick breaks and tree breaks on the edge of the woods after drumming the night previous. And so we went back to the spot. We planned to stay the night there, and we did some ceremonial drumming, just basically us sitting in a circle playing drums. And I said, well, you know, boy, let's play some Henry Franzoni Bolero. So the idea is that this 15-minute orchestra, you know, masterpiece, which people know from the movie 10 with Dudley Moore and Bo Derek, most noted, supposedly has a syncopated rhythm in it that elicits Sasquatch activity. Now, this has been confirmed by Bigfoot researchers, mainly from Washington State. And they swore that they had crazy activity after they played this huge song. So I talked Kevin Carney into playing it out of the back of his Ford. We played it for 15 minutes. It's very hypnotic. It pulls you in. It's a very repetitive tune. Dun, da, 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 dun, da, da, dun, da, 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 da. So anyway, if you have a chance to cue that up and listen to that, and if you want to play it in the woods, and yeah, it was an active night for some. It wasn't that active for me as it was for others, but people did say that it did amp up activity, and that was all due to Henry.
Yeah. So what do you say, Tobe? Is there anyone I should send a link to?
Well, why don't we see if Jeremiah wants to come in? Jeremiah, I talked to you earlier about that. You want to invite Bigfoot Society in?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Jeremiah, I'm calling you out. You and I have been on the phone off and on. Just be your chance. You did the last interview with Henry Franzoni about what happened to you in Oak Ridge. So it would stand to reason that you should be the guy to be called on. If there's anybody else in here that wants to say anything, just put your hand up like Steph the contractor did, and let us know. Maybe just a hand signal like Steph did.
So Jeremiah, I just sent it to your messenger if you want to check and click on that link.
Yeah, just go to Messenger and check it out. I think you can send them in the chat as well. Maybe not. Yeah, let me see if I've got that while he's coming in here. I might have.
Now, the Bolero that you have queued up or on your phone, is it the original? Brett just wandered off. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
He heard
Well,
Bolero and just took off towards the mountain. Or
well,
is
here,
it?
I don't need
Is it
to.
pink? Do you have the pink martini version?
No. This is Maurice Ravel, the original. So let me just cue this up here. This is the song that every Bigfooter could play and get a relatively active response immediately, according to some, playing this in the woods.
Okay. Well, before you start, I'm going to bring Jeremiah in so he can join us for this. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You all good?
It's very hot in here.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
guys.
Jeremiah, you just joined us in time for a
Hey.
music request.
How are you? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me up for this. Yeah, it's cool to be able to celebrate Henry's life and what he did for the community and for the subject of Sasquatch. And it's just the times we were able to talk over the years, and I was just able to talk to him just early August. Every time was just such a life-changing conversation, and there were a lot of things we talked about, and I know Tobe has heard the entire conversation, and what he helped me with during that conversation will be helping me for the next 20-25 years. But I'm speechless about him moving on but being promoted. So it's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it really feels like we lost like an icon. Like it feels like Jimmy Dean kind of icon to me. Like we lost one of the big ones. It's really unfortunate. I mean, in my mind, I put Henry Franzoni in this category of just being kind of superhuman with where his creative mind went, and he wasn't lying about so much. And that's an extraordinary thing, because he was saying, and Jeremiah, I mean, you're wrapping your mind around things like Oak Ridge and everything else, is that Henry was telling us about place names and saying, if you go there, things will start to happen. Be prepared.
Yes.
Yeah. He absolutely did. He alluded to it before I went out there, and I think he knew. I don't know if he wanted to actually tell me what I was about to get into going into that Willamette National Forest area. And looking over our previous conversations, he actually said a little bit about what he experienced, which was shadows out of the corner of his eyes, and deep voices and all sorts of weird stuff. He spent about 30 years in that town of Oak Ridge, or the forests around. That was his secret Bigfoot spot. So it's very cool how I was able to experience that, and it's a very special area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what was the first time that you heard Henry talk about Bigfoot, Jeremiah? How did that work?
The first memory I have of Henry is watching the Drumming for Bigfoot documentary on, it was like Tubi or something. But
Right.
Ever since I saw that, I was like, this is incredible. This is the most amazing piece of Bigfoot doc I've ever seen. I was like, I gotta talk to this guy. I gotta get the whole story. And so my first interview with him was actually getting the behind the scenes that had never been shared about that documentary, and how he went around the Pacific Northwest with the guy from the BBC. And I was just so enamored with Henry after that, and to the point where I've never talked about this, but I have a contact within the BBC trying to find documentary footage from that film that had been cut out and never seen. I don't think anything's going to come out of it, but I've had someone working on it for about a year. So I just, he's got such a fun story. And then talking to him about all the the Bigfoot bases under Rainier, Oregon, and then what you guys got in your documentary of him was just like, it just keeps getting wilder and wilder, and his spirit was amazing. I just loved to be able. I never got to meet him, but to be able to just have a conversation with him was so special.
Yeah. Yeah, we were lucky. I was lucky enough to discover him like in 2005, and he returned my email. Like I found some weird little website that he'd created about Caveman Shoe Store, which was his, pseudo punk band, kind of LSD rock and very trippy and just like made for tripping, right? Like he wanted to trip. And so he created a beat for that. And we need to mention here is that, Cliff Barrickman, who is an accomplished guitarist, I believe, as well as Kirk Sigurdsson, who was a drummer, kind of out of the Bigfoot thing, Henry Franzoni, Ray Crow, all those guys would rock out like after they'd go Bigfooting. So, they'd go squatching, they'd all have a beer, and then they would rock out. And that was the way it went for the better part of 20 years. And so, it was all about good times with Henry. He did have some health issues along the way, some challenges that he had to deal with, which kind of pulled him out of this community. But I was always such an advocate, for Henry. Even when Henry and I were on the outs, I was still pushing for him. I was just like, God damn it. Why does it have to be this way with this guy? I'm such a fan. And I'm not like that with a lot of people. Henry went past all that with me for whatever reason. He felt like a brother in arms still. And I felt like, gosh, if we have to go to war over this Bigfoot issue, I'm going to lock arms with this crazy guy.
Tobe, I gotta say, but I think he felt the same way about you. Cause I know like when, cause we stayed in contact with Henry, through everything. And when that, kerfuffle or whatever you want to call it happened, Henry, it just felt like we were all still fighting the good fight. That was just a kerfuffle. For what it's worth.
It was, and I just think it was. Henry had bad days, and he was a mad scientist. He was a mad genius, and he had a lot going on in his head that was pulling. In my mind, it was pulling him away from us long ago. Like he was ready for this promotion. And I don't think we're at a loss right now. I don't think Henry sees it as a loss at all. I see, he had to leave behind family, obviously, but he's getting all the answers right now. And that's an incredible thing for a guy looking into mysteries his whole life to be fulfilled like that.
And I think that it's up to us to go into the book. Like he wrote a few books that are incredible, and to read those again and kind of have a different way of looking at things and try to rediscover what he was trying to leave behind through those books. He's got interviews on his YouTube channel. He's got interviews on your channel and on a few other podcasts like my own, and just kind of dig into those and see what we can kind of rediscover that he left behind. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I could play this audio here potentially by sharing my screen on the laptop. Last time we didn't have a lot of luck doing it. It's really good audio of him talking around the campfire with me about drumming. Do you want me to try to do that?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay, so bear with us here while we try to do this.
You guys, you know how many YouTube tutorials I've watched for Restream trying to become a pro at this? It's not sticking. I need an intern.
Yeah, right. I think it's not allowing me to share a screen for whatever reason, like last time, Jill. So I don't know if it's something that you can backdoor or not, but I don't see it there anymore.
That's a great.
Oh, here
question.
I see
I'm
it.
Sure there's a YouTube video for that.
I got it. Allow share screen. Let's see what we got. Right. Share the screen. Yes. Okay. Do you see my screen?
I'm going to show it on stream. Yes.
Okay. Let's see if we can play this audio here. Can you hear that?
No.
Oh, isn't that a shame? Here it is. Here's the audio, and I can't play it. That's ridiculous. So I don't know how I can bypass that other than the fact that it's probably something internal here. So I'll just stop share screen. There's not
Is it, hey, Tobe, just as an afterthought, is it something that we could put up like a special, we could put it up on the YouTube channel to share with people later on? Or
Yeah, well, what I could do is I'll just upload it to Facebook as a MP3 or something like that, and people can listen to it. But in short, he showed up unexpectedly in Cottage Grove. I used to do live events at a bar once a month called Strange Brow. And so we were talking about the stranger things, not only Bigfoot, but everything. And Henry got a hankering to show up out of the blue. Like, I would have loved to invite Henry down from Washington State to listen to Bigfoot conversations or whatever. Well, he just found out and drove 2.5 hours to a little sleepy bar and popped a squat. And before I knew it, he was sitting around the Al Moon Lab campfire hearing the stories that Daryl and I had. And he befriended one of the neighbors, Ren, who was a part of the story as well. And so him and Ren and myself sat around the campfire around 11 o'clock at night eating Domino's pizza. And we started talking to him about bolero and about why drumming is important. And he starts talking about the syncopated rhythm of 3 and how 3 is an important number numerology wise. And he says it's not so much as what's happening with the rhythm, but what's happening in the transition point between the beat. And he gets into the syncopated rhythm of dun, 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 which is the bolero tune, right? So Henry leaves, drives back to, I believe, St. Helens, Washington, up by the Trojan nuclear power plant. I think he lived at that time. And we're still actively researching and getting activity at the Al Moon Lab, gifting, sightings, hair, handprints, all of it. So I have my Tascam DR05 always running. That night, I put the Tascam DR05 up against the wall of the metal shop, facing outwards to the gravel area where we had a lot of interaction out by my 14-foot camper. And I don't think much of it because it might be hit or miss. And 3 days later, I wish I could play this audio for you, but I can't share my audio. It's in the book. But I get this tremendous audio of drumming, and it's right up against the recorder. It's a syncopated, Jill, you've heard it. Dum, 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 dum. Okay? It's right there. And then you hear percussive snarl talking between 2 creatures, back and forth. And what we surmised had happened is that something, according to the spectrogram reading that is available with this audio, sending it to David Ellis, knowing the fact that we found prints and hair in the same area, is that the Sasquatch came up and picked an empty 50-gallon drum, and they played that thing either like this or like this somehow. And they played it like a bongo drums. And they did it on behest of what Henry had talked about. They must have, because that's the only, it's the only thing I can surmise that happened. The vocals are way too crazy. The hair, the footprints, all the stuff in relationship to it, the sightings. And when I told Henry that, he was just like, well, yeah, they know who I am. Haven't you been listening?
Right.
He was unfazed, unimpressed with the fact that they were playing bongos outside. And that's just the guy who he was. He's just like, well, I've been telling you they're real and they can blow up your starter, and of course they can play the bongos.
I've seen them do the backstroke on the Columbia River.
Yeah.
Tobe, that reminds me of something from our last conversation, is that he started to, as I was sharing him things, he started to be like, well, you're at pretty much at the point where they start to know where you are. And he also mentioned you as well, Tobe. Like, he's like, I'm pretty sure that they know who Tobe is as well, in a way. But it's the wildest thing. But
yeah,
man, he was on a different level for sure. The recording of bolero, is it a certain type of recording that you have to use, or is it any version of the song that you can use?
Oh no, so Ravel is the name of the composer. I think we're talking before the 1900s, as far as I know. A very famous piece, and so it's Maurice Ravel. Bolero is Bolero. It's a 14-minute, 50-second concerto masterpiece. He was panned. He thought he was being panned after he wrote this piece, and he played it for the first time in front of a live audience, and it was complete silence. He thought he'd failed, but the audience was so stunned and hypnotized by this piece they didn't know what to do. And so he ran out the back door thinking he'd failed as a musician, and he heard this, raucous applause in the background, and the whole audience, was giving him a standing ovation for this masterpiece. So it's the kind of piece that gives you chills if you play it loud. If you play this loud in the woods and it reverberates, you will probably go into some kind of trance. It's that kind of music.
Okay, I'm gonna try it in Iowa next time I go out to our spot. I will try it. Yeah, it'll be fun.
It's very trance-inducing, and it had Bolero kind of had a revival in the mid to late 90s by Pink Martini.
Oh, it did?
They did a cover of it. It's stunning.
Okay, I haven't heard that one.
I'm curious, Jeremiah, you interview a lot of people for your podcast. Have you talked to people who are echoing kind of like what Henry's experienced or talked about? Or, I mean, Henry Franzoni is on a whole other level of where he's talking, but have you talked to people who are kind of echoing, talking about the drumming, the music, the beats, being familiar with them the way Henry did?
There's not really anyone that comes close. But the thing, this is kind of a rabbit trail, but the thing that I've noticed in the last 5 that I've done that are not released yet is everyone has said, I have said something out loud in reference to them, and immediately after something will happen. A tree will get pushed over, or they'll show themselves to me. And I'm like, this is not a coincidence that the last 4 or 5 people that do not know each other are all talking about, I talked directly to them out loud and immediately after. So it's very interesting how the podcast I have is starting to maybe open up information to me in a certain way. And that just sounds weird to say, but it's a work in progress.
Henry would love that comment.
Ask and you shall receive. That's what my takeaway's been.
Yeah. He said, be ready for when you really get into it, and be careful when you go down the road to Seattle. That was his warning when I first talked to him, and he's right.
Well, what did Ira say? Everyone calls, but everyone gets called, but not everybody RSVPs.
Everyone gets, everyone gets the invitation, but not everyone RSVPs.
Yeah, and Henry got the RSVP times 2.
Dude, Henry was running the guest list. He was like, here, put this person in the VIP room and put this person, in the back of the club. But yeah.
I mean, the guy had a presence. It's like, Winston Churchill walked into a room. Like, you just felt Henry walk into a room, and he had these real dramatic pauses, and they just were dramatic, and just like he's going to milk the conversation, and it pulled you in, right? Like, it could be a 3-hour. He wanted to do a 7-hour PowerPoint, but he only had a 45-minute attention span of the audience. I could have sat through a 7-hour thing with Henry. I really could have. It would have, it really would have pulled me in probably for all 7 hours. There's a wealth of information there. Henry said some incredible things in the Drop the Bomb videos. If you haven't seen Henry Drops a Bomb Part 1 and 2, just hold back what you think about what he has to say and just listen to the way he says it. I mean, the guy is telling you what he honestly believes is going on. And that's very rare to find in this community and actually want to pay attention to it. Usually there's this, it just sounds hokey. But Henry, he straight up called Sasquatch the hillbilly scientists of the earth, and that they are the inventors of tech, and we are basically the worker bees creating their stuff, right? Like, this was what he said he was informed about. And he didn't tell us the whole story. Like, he got green lit to talk about this with us, but he didn't tell us everything.
I know.
I don't think.
Well, I'll tell you this, Tobe. When we did that initial interview with him back in 2020 for A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed, he told me, he's like, I'm going to tell you what I'm able to tell you right now. There are things I can't tell you. There are things I know, but I'm going to share what I can. And at the time I was like, what more could you share? This is so much information. Well, I was very naive at the time in the Sasquatch world. But then we met with him for Henry Drops a Bomb Part 1 and 2, which basically we had to split into two because it was a lot to digest. So, but even before and after filming, he hinted at stuff that we don't have on camera that was like, wait, what? And then, like I mentioned just a few months ago, we met up with him for lunch, and I was just like, should we be filming this? Should we be ask him if he can repeat it? There was just so much information, and it was amazing. And God bless him that he'd have to kind of dumb himself down to art. Like, I have to take all this intelligence and transmute it to what Jill and Brett can digest, basically. But there's, like I said, I think Henry's work is just beginning. I think he left us a lot of clues and a lot of codes and a lot of puzzles. And
absolutely.
I tell you what, not now, but give it a few months or so. I think there's going to be a lot more dots are going to be connected from Henry. Yeah, like I said, I think his work is just beginning. Like, I could just see him like, it's all coming together. It's all coming together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to say thank you for inviting me up here. I want to leave the stage open for other people if they want to come up and talk about Henry and how he influenced them. But thank you so much for inviting me up to this, guys.
Of course. And Jeremiah, before you go, where can people catch your podcast?
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, all the links are over at BigfootSocietyPodcast.com, but you can just search for Bigfoot Society on YouTube. And I'm crazy. I put something out every day. So it's just there's too many stories out there, and I need to get them all out when I get them. And also, you can find Bigfoot Society on all major audio podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. So thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Well,
that was awesome. I'm glad Jeremiah could come on and talk about that. And Tobe, I got to bring something up. Something I think we brought it up with you after we had that last meeting with Henry, but something he brought up, and I think we asked you about it, but Henry was telling us that, and Brett, feel free to jump in here if I completely screw up the information. He was talking about he believes that there are tunnels, whether I guess volcanic, like lava tubes, or some passages from Vancouver Island, British Columbia to the peninsula. And he gave us a specific town. I want to say it started with a B. Does that sound correct? I'll have to look at a map. I'll have to do some recon on this. But he gave us a specific town, and he's like, this is like the transfer point. This is where they're going from the island to the mainland. Have you heard this? I mean, maybe
No.
in Henry's circle of intelligence. This
Wasn't
is
the
common
Toba
knowledge.
Inlet, was it?
No,
Okay.
it wasn't. He didn't name off an inlet. It was like a specific. I'm gonna pull up maps really quick.
I'm
'cause
looking at it right now.
Okay. I
yeah,
mean,
but do you know what you're looking for? I know on the map. He like.
Oh, you do?
no,
Okay, I'm gonna
I
find
mean, I've been hearing about tunnels underneath the Canadian coastline connected to the Olympic Peninsula for quite a while.
Was it Murdoch Beach?
It was. Hold on, I'm looking. I swear it started with a B. It was not. Was it Brennan?
Oh,
Brennan?
Brennan is in the Hood Canal.
It's not far from Agnew.
Oh,
So
Okay.
that's where I live.
yeah.
Oh my God! Check your basement.
It's
No.
not far from there.
Well, then, so Agnew and Squim are on the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Brennan is where
It's
they're
further south.
yeah, that's in the Hood Canal, so they would have to go in through like the sub base area and all that. Which
Gosh,
would,
what?
I mean, I wish we had Henry here to ask.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe some synchronicity again here, Henry, to
we'll find out.
come up
Yeah,
with an answer.
Henry's kind of like on his first day of work, job training on the other side, so we're not gonna.
Yeah. I mean, there's, I don't know. There's
Was
some.
it Gardner? Was it Gardner? It was some. It was a little town, but he's like, this is where they're coming in from. I'm like, okay.
Really? Now I want to know because
No, it
that's
wasn't
my
Dungeness,
stomping
no.
grounds. Yeah. If anybody has any clue out by where I live near Agnew, Washington, of a town with a B near there, I can't think of anything offhand.
Or it was near a town with a B, but or are there any ports that start with B? Are there any like port?
Well, there's tons of ports. There's Port Gamble.
No, that's for ghost hunting.
There's Port
Pete's
Townsend. There's Port
neighborhood.
Orchard. There's Port Williams. There's Port. There's
I
tons.
want to say it has something to do with Brennan. No, I'm quite certain. Like, it was that Brennan town. Yeah.
Really?
Well, I've got news for you: is that Olympic Strange Days is going to be very close to that town, if that's where it is. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe
That's
more
odd.
Henry at foot. So, yeah. Unfortunately, I can't play this tremendous audio. I'll put it up online whenever I can. But, to his new wife, Henry was recently remarried. Our sympathies to his wife, who I never had a chance to meet. Actually, she showed up, in Yakima last year, and I didn't get a chance to say hi. Henry was there with Bob Gimlin in the same room. You remember that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And he brought it's Heidi, and she came to the Forks when we played Bigfoot Revealed. They came up last minute.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so like, gosh, yeah, it's a lot.
It wasn't Port Hadlock.
No.
Okay.
It was like, oh wait, Port Brown. What? Jenny Larson, Port Browning.
Well,
Where's
now
that?
Port Browning is probably near Whidbey Island, right, Jenny?
Hold on, let me Google it.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Well, that's all right.
Once I get on maps, it's okay. Port Browning, not.
Remember, too, you can go to YouTube and you can see Henry's last YouTube video. He had a YouTube channel. I believe it was under Henry Franzoni. A little bit hard to find, but he would sit in front of a whiteboard or sit at line with, his Bluetooth on, and he would do full-on lectures about time distortion and warp drives and cloaking, and like he was trying to give a science lesson on how this may work, and it was above my pay grade. Let's just be clear, but endlessly informative. and stuff that you can put, as far as Arla says, in your little gray box. Just file it away.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's something we all should do, is go back and revisit Henry's website, or not his website, but his YouTube channel. Try to make sense of all that. And then I know I'll probably, while we're on the road tomorrow driving, I'll probably just put in my AirPods and like re-listen to everything, see what I can take away.
Yeah. Well, tonight we'll spend some time kind of doing a best of for what we can do, what's accessible to us while we're on the road. And I'll put some audio clips together that involve Henry and myself. Including, I'm going to try to find the old interviews of him on Talk Shoe Radio, because I bet they still exist. And those are just classic episodes of Henry talking fresh after his starter engine was seized, right? Like it happened like the year before. So that's pretty cool.
Was Henry ever a guest on Strange Brow Radio?
Oh yeah, like I was a fan. Like I had a podcast back in 2007 called Bigfoot Air, and it was named Bigfoot Air because I had found a gas station that had the word Bigfoot written near the quarter slot where you could get air for your tire. And so I was like, oh, that could be a podcast, Bigfoot Air. So that was my logo, and Henry was my first guest. And I thought, well, this is going to be a strange journey. Like, people are making sense here about this, and Henry's willing to talk to me. And he came to a conference I put on. I invited him out to Camp White Branch, and he had a heart event relatively close to that time frame. I think it was circa 2010 or 11. And he still showed up anyway, and he roughed it like everybody else. He had to drive 3.5 hours to do it. But I think he just got sick of the nonsense. Like, it's so much more complicated and so much cooler than these apers have been telling us. And Henry damn well knew it. And he just got sick of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Good for him.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, when he came back, I mean, you know, just his whole, do you remember at Squatch Fest in Kelso, Longview, beginning, gosh, was it this year? Yeah, I guess January. He just all of a sudden kind of showed up like, here I am. And he had the air about him, the way he carried himself. And just like you're saying, those dramatic pauses. But when he showed up, he kind of looked around. It reminded me, and like, I'm totally dating myself now, but like classic, like WWF, like when the wrestlers would come in and they'd like play to the audience and to the other wrestlers, like, I am here. Like, this is my entrance. Like, Henry made an entrance. Yeah.
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 And it wasn't an act. Like, he was that guy that could make an entrance. He had that kind of factor. And people were threatened by that because not everybody can do that. Henry just had that quality about him.
I don't give a...
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's legends in this community that were reportedly like that. Like Rene DeHinden, right? Big personality, would cause confrontations when he'd show up and call people out on stage, and take the audience over and have this French Canadian back and forth with a lot of F-bombs. That wasn't Henry, but Henry was just more like, oh, I could outsmart you. I'll take it easy on you for a little while right now, but don't be too much of a jackhound. Yeah.
Kind of like how a cat plays with the mouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, I can have fun with you. Oh, this is
right.
gonna be fun. Yeah.
It was definitely a bless your heart for trying kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Henry will be missed, but his legacy will live on, and I hope we can do him good. While we're here.
Well, let's play a little bit of Bolero on our outro here.
Before we do outro, can I just say a few little things?
Sure.
in other news. So if you're a member of the channel, you've already seen the latest interview. For the rest of you, at 7 a.m., it will go public, and that is with Ashley Stinnett, who is featured in A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot. You guys, if you have not, the way we set all this up is we imagined you'd watch A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed, and then be like, oh, now I'm going to watch the sequel, A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot, and then dive into all the interviews. If you haven't watched A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot yet, watch that documentary. It's free on our YouTube channel. And then treat yourself and watch the interviews of the people who've been in it. And Ashley is amazing. She's had amazing experiences. She's she's kind of like a Daryl Adams. Where she goes, lightning strikes. You know what I mean? She's a long-term experiencer, I guess, and just interesting things happen wherever she goes.
Yeah.
And her interview reflects that. So that will be available tomorrow. And gosh, what else? Well, I do want to say, though, that like what Brett was saying, there's no coincidences. And the woman started showing cat pictures. And we all know, if you knew Henry, he was a cat lover. This man loved cats like you could not believe, and demonstrated so in that for that interview we did with him, where when he was talking about, can Sasquatch control animals? Can they communicate with them and speak with them? And then out of nowhere, this kitten that he's never seen just kind of crawls up into his lap. That cat had more personality than some people I know. Let's just be honest. But that cat was like, it was trying to crawl up on our shoulders. It was like, at one point it hopped into my car. Like, let's go, lady. But yeah, the synchronicities on the trip, after we heard of his passing, there's just a few little wink. I felt like there were a few little winks along the way, especially when we stopped into a little diner, restaurant, bakery called Heaven on Earth. It's in Southern Oregon, and if you've ever been driving up and down I-5, you've probably looked at it and go, oh, that's neat, and just kept going. But Tobe, you kind of said that was your experience with Heaven on Earth. Like, you were familiar with it driving by, but you'd never given
No,
it the time
we had a
of
good
day.
experience there too. We had a good experience.
So today, we were just kind of still in this state of shock, and we go in, and I was buying like a Marionberry crisp, just like a little, like something for us to nosh on. It's just a little serving thing. But Tobe, so you struck up a conversation with the owner, and before I know it, she's like, "You need more stuff." You hear that?
I did. Yeah.
There's a cat fight going on outside.
Henry's out there fighting the Bigfooter still.
Henry's like,
he's battling the apers.
But you guys, I have to say, Heaven on Earth. If you ever drive by, take the exit. This woman, they're famous for cinnamon rolls. And when she heard that it was Tobe's first time visiting, she's like, I have something for you. And I don't know why it's in our room. But, so
You can't have any, Jill.
They make these giant cinnamon rolls. It's like the size of my head.
It's as big as a Bigfoot print. It's like a baby
this is
Sasquatch.
like this would be like a Cinnabon to like an 8-foot Sasquatch. Maybe a 7-foot Sasquatch. Yeah, it's huge. And then she's like, oh, no. She was just like getting like divine guidance. She's like, no, I need to give you more. So we have 2 of these. Then she's like, no, you need more. So she gave us like this thing of like these giant dipped chocolate macaroons. Then, and this is after she like gifted you like fresh made caramel corn, correct?
Correct. I don't know if
and
my
then
picture's
came the
further.
banana bread. I'm anti-banana, but I won't judge those who consume. But yeah, it's just kind of like, we were just kind of like laughing. It's kind of like, I think Henry wanted a piece of this, so it was just kind of like oh, thanks. we've got more carbs here than we know what to do with. It was like this could be like the worst time for me to try to start doing keto. I gotta switch gears to from keto to my Keto Kalen diet, where I just kind of mooch and eat everybody else's stuff. So here we are. Yeah, so the journey continues, the adventure continues, just like Henry Franzoni's adventure is just beginning. So with that, do you want to play some outro music to?
Yeah, I don't know. Can you
Send
still
us
hear
off?
you can hear my audio?
I hear you.
Okay. Well, my screen's frozen, but I'll play some Ravel. All right. You can find it, play it, have fun with it. Henry, we'll talk to you soon, some way or another.
Thanks, everybody. We're signing off.
All right. Night.
Take care. Take care of one another. Night.